Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's video is going to be a suggested reading list for anyone contemplating becoming a prepper or survivalist, or anyone who is in a survivalist situation. The reason I'm doing this is because several people have asked me for a reading list in the past, and it just seems to me it'd be a better idea to make a video that I could forward to anybody asking this question as opposed to typing it all out. The first book I'm going to recommend is for reading right now, not when things get bad. This is called A People's History of the United States. It's by Howard Zinn. I've been told that this book is revisionist history by a socialist, Marxist, communist, mostly because it tells the truth, and you really can't say anything bad about somebody telling the truth unless you use fictional words. The reason I mention this is because right now I think it's very important that you dedicate your time to getting ready for what's about to happen to us. A lot of people dedicate half of their time to preparing and the other half of their time into trying to make preparing unnecessary. In other words, voting, petitioning, or armed uprising. They feel that somehow if they can just fix the government, we won't end up in a situation where we have to survive on our own. And trust me, I know how you feel. I don't want to have to survive on my own either. I go to Walmart every 2 weeks. I'm dependent on that garbage they sell for food. That's why right now I dedicate 100% of my time to trying to figure out how to eat without Walmart. And you need to do that too. If you're putting half your time into trying to fix America, that's half the time that you're wasting. There's hundreds of examples of people in this book who petitioned the government, who voted, and who engaged in armed rebellion. And it didn't work out good for any of them. I'm not talking about just African American slaves, and I'm not just talking about the Native American Indians. I'm talking about veterans, farmers, factory workers, just anybody who's ever tried to bring about change in this country. Do what you want. Next thing. This book here is called Diet for a Small Planet. Just doing this book review has got me thinking as soon as I get done with this video, I'm going to get online and order me a copy of the new version of this. It's by Francis Moore Latt. For the most part, it is a cookbook. It explains how to get your nutritional needs out of things that are sustainable. But the very first part of the book is dedicated to the history of food, where food came from and where it's going. And back in 1971, when this book was first written, and this is a 76 version, I got it around 1980, it's very apocalyptic. It explains how we are using millions of calories of energy to produce hundreds of calories of food, and how it's destroying the planet, and how very, very soon we're not going to be able to produce any food anymore. And that's all coming true. And in fact, where she said we would be now is where we are now. Can't wait to see what the new one says. They didn't have laws forcing human beings to eat genetically modified organisms back in 1971. All right, speaking of food, it is a fact that no matter what happens, all the land, all of the arable land in the United States has now gone fallow. That means it's turned into a desert. There is no land left, agricultural land left, that can produce food. The only thing that can be produced in the United States is genetically modified organisms. The ground which used to grow normal food has been destroyed, and the only thing that can live in destroyed ground is chemically activated plants. Plants that require no natural nutrients, only petroleum-based nutrients, petroleum-based herbicides, and petroleum-based insecticides. And that's going, where that's going is really bad. So you're going to have to learn how to eat what will grow. And weeds always seem to have a way of growing. You can go to an agricultural field that will not grow corn, and there'll be weeds there. The books I'm showing you are both by Samuel Thayer. The first one's called Forager's Harvest. The next one is called Nature's Garden. I used to have a whole list of foraging books that I recommended until I got these two. These are the only two I now recommend. And in fact, several people who I've spoken about this with have told me that I should get the DVD as well. I didn't know they had a DVD, but I've been told that if you get the books with the DVD, it's a much better experience. If you're rich, get both these books and the DVD. Hopefully, if you're watching me, you have a computer, you can play a DVD. All right. We've spoken about food. Next book is just my favorite field guide, and that's Sibley's Guide to Trees. Now, what does a tree have to do with survival? Well, right now, we are living in cubicles and houses and cars, things that are not going to be here much longer, and we're going to have to go back to living amongst trees. I recommend this book just because it's my favorite. But any nature guide you can get your hands on. I don't care if it's a butterfly book, wildflower book, bird book, amphibian book, snake book, any kind of a book that helps you to identify the living things in the world around you, because that's what you're going to have to end up dealing with for the rest of your existence. Now, I'm not telling you that civilization is going to collapse tomorrow. It may take up to 20 years. We live in a smoke and mirrors economy, a smoke and mirrors society. And that's okay as long as you got plenty of smoke and plenty of mirrors, but we're starting to run out of smoke and mirrors. When we come to the final end of smoke and mirrors, you need to have a start of becoming a human being, because that's what we were supposed to be. When we were created, we were human beings. It took centuries, actually thousands of years, to become citizens. And a citizen cannot exist in the natural world. All right, let's see, what was the next one? We've talked about food, now we're going to talk about shelter. And I don't care if you live in a swamp. This book is a must. It's the $50 and up underground house book. Now, if you've got a piece of land that's dry enough that you can put in an underground house, wonderful. But if you don't, you still need to learn how to live simple. If you think washing your dishes by hand instead of using the dishwasher is a simple life, you don't understand. You've got a long way to go. See if I can show you some of the pictures in here. This man who wrote the book is Mike Kohler. He felled these trees on his property with his own hands. He dug the hole with his own hands. He lined it in plastic with his own hands. And for $50, he moved in and he lived there for decades. Happily. In fact, it seems his place became kind of a hangout for actual human beings. Here's some more pictures, if you can see them. But you got to learn how to live simple. If you absolutely cannot live without a TV set or a record player, or you think that humans were meant to have automobiles, you ain't got much time left to live. Live it up. All right, next thing having to do with shelter is the Humanure Handbook by J.C. Jenkins. I love this book. You would think that a book about poop would only need to be 1 or 2 pages, and after that it would get boring. This is a good read from start to finish. It's filled with drawings like this. It's filled with a lot of helpful, important information. Because if you go into this system that we're headed for, where you believe that your waste products are toxic waste, you're going to lose out on a really precious resource, because human waste is every bit as precious as the waste from trees and alligators and lizards and fish and birds and cucumbers. Everything on this planet that produces waste is a food source for something else on this planet. And when you can no longer get 13-13-13 or some other kind of petroleum-based fertilizer, you're going to find out that if you're trying to grow things, you're not going to have much success. This could save your life. I use it, I know. I'm not just saying that because I like the book. Now, there's another book here, and I think it's published by the Hespians, which is it's an organization that does good things for starving people. Third world nations can actually request cases of these books for free, I believe. It's written by David Werner. Where There Is No Doctor, a Village Healthcare Handbook. If you live in a society where you have CAT scans and MRIs and X-rays and pharmaceutical multinational corporations, your life expectancy is about 76 years. It's just a fact. If you live in a third world nation where you have access to clean water, nutritious food, and shelter, And this book, you have a life expectancy of about 76 years. The empire tries to put out a bunch of statistics to make you proud to be an American by showing that you have the highest life expectancy in the world. That's really not true. Basically, if you live in a country that's not being bombed by the empire, you live to 76 years. If you live in a country that is being bombed by the empire, you live to a whole lot less. We're not being bombed, we're doing the bombing. That's the only thing that makes us live longer than them. Oh, and then there's OSHA and there's seat belts. All right, if you've seen more than 3 of my videos, you probably know what the next book is going to be. Bible. They add the holy part just to make it look better on the cover, but obviously it's holy. I'm not going to say that you don't need a Quran, a holy Quran, or some other holy book, ancient writing, but I haven't read any others. This is the only one I'm familiar with, and when I read it I knew it was the truth, and so I didn't go looking a whole lot further. But just from listening to people who base their lives on other ancient holy writings, I can only say that the truth is going to be in people, and it's in this book. Now, where can you get a Bible rather than buy one? This one was brought to me by people that helped to rebuild my house after the hurricane. In fact, it's got a little card in here that they gave me. And another Bible that you can get for free is the Gideon's Bible at a hotel room. It's not stealing to take that with you. That's actually placed there in the hopes that you'll take it with you. And another one is if the Jehovah's Witnesses come by, you can ask them for a free Bible. I'm not really sure about the Mormons. I do believe they'll give you a free Bible, but they'll give you a Book of Mormon too. I don't want to say anything bad about that because I haven't read it. But you do need a Bible. And here's the reason for that. Right now, you may kind of recognize that the gods we worship up in Washington, D.C. are false gods. But if you're laying low in a bunker with a bunch of canned beans, you're going to know for a fact that they are false gods. And when that happens, you may want to go looking to see if you can find out who the true God is. Good to have a Bible. Another one that I recommend is my namesake's. Henry David Thoreau wrote a book called Walden while he was living on Walden Pond. He went over and over again into reasons why humans need to live a simple life. And he couldn't understand why people had such complicated lives. And when he wrote this was 200 years ago, or 150 years ago. 150 years ago, this man wondered why people didn't live a simple life. Nowadays, if we were to look back at how the richest people on earth lived back then, we would say they had a simple life. But this one here, this is a good book if you've already read this book. If you haven't read this, read this. And if you read this, you really don't need this, but I just thought I'd throw it in there. I didn't put a bunch of books on there about how to start fires, and I didn't put books in there about how to go hunting and trapping. Those are all important skills. I actually don't really have a whole lot of books about that. I pretty much figured it all out for myself. You're free to go get those. But if you want the absolute essentials, the books I just showed you. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.